Okay, this is the first in a series of videos for the high school math prep course, and I'll try to keep them short. So we're on the first one. It's going to be about polynomial terminology. For polynomials, we've got a few terms we need to know. We need to know coefficient, variable, constant, and operator. Coefficients are numbers that are multiplied by variables. So this 5 here and this 2 here are coefficients. Variables are numbers that we don't know yet. So unknown or changeable values, and we represent those with letters normally. So this y or that x would be variables. Constants are just numbers with no variable attached to them. They're not being divided by or multiplied by any letter. So here, the only constant we've got is -7. And operators are things like multiply, divide, add, and subtract. But as far as we're concerned right now, add and subtract. These are going to be important, addition and subtraction, because they'll separate our polynomials into terms, our first term, our second term, and our third term here. Before we go any further, it's a good idea to remember about exponents. So, for example, y cubed, here is our base, and that is our exponent. So y cubed means repeated multiplication. So y times y times y, there's 1, 2, 3 of them. So that's y cubed. If it was y to the power of 4, there would be one more. -3 to the power of 4, the base is just going to be 3. So this is negative, or we could write -1 times, which just means that the result is going to be negative. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 3's. The 4 only applies to the 3, not to the negative sign. That's different from the one right below, where we have a bracket around -3, which means that 1, 2, 3, 4 of those -3's get multiplied by each other. Here is almost the same thing as what was up here. Here it was -3, which is -1 times 3. Here's 2x cubed, so that's 2 times x times x times x, which would be different if it was like that. If it was 2x cubed, that's different, would be 2x times 2x times 2x. A cubed b squared, we would just write 1, 2, 3 a's and 1, 2 b's. So that should be familiar to you, but if not, good time to remember it. So if we said, what's the coefficient of, well, give us maybe an easier one here, of 7x, the coefficient would be 7. The coefficient of 3a squared b over 7x cubed, it's the number part. So we could write this as 3/7 times a squared b over x cubed, and that would have the same value. So our coefficient here would be 3/7. In polynomials, we talk about monomials, binomials, trinomials, or just polynomials. For monomials, they've got one term, which means they're not added to or subtracted from any other thing. It could just be an x, it could just be a 2, it could just be a 2x. Here it's -2x to the 5th, but it's not being added to or subtracted to any other thing. So that's monomial, mono meaning 1. Bi meaning 2. There are two terms with one operator in between. So like that x squared plus 5, or we could do x squared minus 5. As long as there's two of them, it could be a plus b. It could be 1 plus x. We don't know. But as long as there's two terms with an operator in the middle, it's binomial. Trinomial, similar. You look for the operators here, minus and plus, and that separates us into 1, 2, 3 terms. Any more than that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we're just going to call it polynomial. terms are separated by those operators. So if there's something plus something else or something minus something else, then we've got a new term. For degrees of polynomials, degree is the sum of the exponents, and if there's more than one, so for a monomial, we just say, if it was like x cubed, the degree would be 3. If it was x to the 4th, the degree would be 4. If it was a squared b, there's 2 a's and 1 b, the degree would be 2 plus 1 would be 3. So for a monomial, you just look at what the exponents are in the term. Like here, negative 2x to the 6y cubed z, there's a 6, there's a 3, and there's a 1 z there, that invisible 1. So 6 and 3 and 1 gets us 10. But if we have a polynomial with more than one term, we have to find the one which of the terms has the highest degree. So if it's just one term, 9 with no x's or no y's or no whatever, the degree would be 0. If there's just an x, like it was just like x plus 2 or just x, the degree would be 1. If we've got x squared and x and negative 5, x squared has the highest degree, so the degree of this polynomial would be called 2. Here we look, there's a 3 degree, a 2 degree, so the degree of this one is called 3. And then our last one here, we've got 2 plus 3. So this is a 5 and 4 and a 1. So the highest one here is 5, so the degree of this polynomial would be 5. So you find which term has the highest degree, and you state the degree of that one. When things are not polynomials, we cannot have any kind of variable on the bottom. So that's no good, that's no good, that's no good. We cannot have any kind of roots. We cannot have negative exponents. And remember, negative exponents just means, so if we have like 1 over x to the negative 2, negative exponent just means take that thing and throw it on the other side of a fraction. That's where it belongs, to be a positive exponent. Or if we have like x over y, and that's both, here's the negative 1, here's to the negative 2, that's the same as y squared over x. Whenever we have a negative exponent, it means it's on the bottom of a fraction. So this 3x to the negative 2 is the same as 3 times 1 over x squared. And we already say that we can't have our variables on the bottom. We also can't have fractional exponents either. So we cannot have like x to the half or like y to the 3/4. Those, I mean, they're fine numbers. They're just not polynomials. So we can't have any of that. So if we're going to look at some polynomials and we want to figure out what they've got, this is from your textbook. You probably looked at this before. But if we have the polynomial 2x minus 7, the coefficient we'd see there is 2. We'd see one variable, which is an x. The only constant with no variable next to it is negative 7. There's 1, 2 terms, so that's a binomial. For 3n cubed minus 4n plus 7, there's a 3 times an n, and there's a 4 times an n, so 3 and negative 4 are our coefficients. Don't forget the signs. The only variable we see, the only letter we see is n. There's only one constant, and there are 1, 2, 3 terms, so it's a trinomial. Here we have xyz over 5, and this is the same as 1/5 times xyz. So the coefficient is a fifth. The variables, there's an x, a y, and a z. There's 3 variables in there. There's no constant, or we could say the constant is 0, because we're always allowed to say plus 0. Doesn't change anything, so why not? We could add it more than once if we want. We wouldn't, but we could. And since there is only one term, we call it a monomial. So that's the end of this first video here. I'll make a few more short ones. I'll try to keep them all around this length or shorter if I can.